Hello, I'm Rex. This is Test 7, Section 2, and again, due to my inability to schedule like a normal human being, I have like no time to record this, so let's go fast. The National Aeronautics Space Administration, NASA, is a U.S. government agency whose budget is frequently, many times, that's redundant, Many people think of NASA's programs as trivial. In truth, the agency has widespread positive effect on society by serving as a catalyst for innovation and scientific understanding. Effect? Yeah, A, right? Because like affect is typically used, the one with the A is typically the verb, the one with the E is typically the noun. Even though that's not technically the case, like they're both nouns and verbs in English, but I digress. By serving as a catalyst for innovation and scientific understanding, blank, and showing humanity its place in the universe. This is a serial comma, so listing. When you're listing, the components have to be grammatically parallel. So, understanding, creating, showing, B. In 1958, the program's first year, very few people believed that it was even possible for manned spacecraft to leave the atmosphere and orbit Earth, but by initiating and collaborating on projects such as the Apollo moon missions, the Space Shuttle program, the Hubble telescope, and unmanned planetary exploration, another serial comma, back to back, it's just A. NASA has continually challenged its scientists and engineers to do things that were previously thought impossible. All along, these NASA projects have blank. A short list of inventions elaborated by NASA includes Developed by NASA includes communication satellites, invisible braces, and cordless tools. All these inventions, the inventions is plural, so it would be the equivalent of they, so you can't say they spawns, or they has spawned, or they spawning. So B, all these inventions spawned new industries, and with those industries, jobs. NASA also sponsors the Small Business Innovation Research and Small Business Technology Transfer programs that are specifically designed to support technological development in the private sector. You'll notice I skipped number 5 because I saw out of the corner of my eye that it had directions, and so you want to just read the whole paragraph generally when a question has directions. Which choice most effectively sets up the list of examples that follows in the next sentence? Nice. Right after I make that point, you'll notice that these directions do not require me to read the whole paragraph, but still it's something that I do out of force of habit because I like getting answers right, and I don't want to randomly get one wrong because I didn't read enough. Okay, so then what follows next in the next sentence? A short list of inventions developed by NASA includes this thing. Okay, so they did the technology stuff. All of these NASA projects greatly, no international cooperation, random, garnered national at random, created a steady, it's probably C, made a lot of money, it's C. A report by the Space Foundation estimated that NASA contributed $180 billion to the economy in 2005. More than 60% of the contribution came from commercial goods and services created by companies using space-related technology. Yeah, so we need a verb there, like the other ones would create dependent clauses or not be a main verb. This translates as excellent returns from an agency that received approximately $17.7 billion in tax dollars in 2014. This investment by taxpayers enhances not only the national economy, but also the United States' competitiveness in the international market. Moreover, the benefits of NASA funding extend beyond the purely economic, as astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, a fellow Harvard grad, I think, okay, Harvard plug over, indicated in his testimony before the U.S. Senate, for a penny on a dollar, we can transform the country from a sullen, dispirited nation, weary of economic struggle, to one where it has reclaimed its 20th century birthright to dream of tomorrow. Okay, typically wordy. It just says all Harvard grads are. So at number 9, to make this paragraph most logical, sentence 1 should be placed. A report by the Space Foundation estimated that it contributed $180 billion to the economy. Doesn't it need to stay there because the next sentence said the contribution? If this paragraph started with more than 60% of the contribution, that would mean that it's talking about like the sentence before that, which would be the last sentence of the previous paragraph, which it's not a contribution. Okay, I think it's where it is now. 9. Next, go. Tyson's expansive vision for the agency hints at another mission of NASA's illuminated. What? Tyson's expansive vision for the agency hints at another mission of NASA's? Isn't that a double possessive? I think they just made a grammatical error. That's crazy. Oh my god, I'm flabbergasted. I'm so flabbergasted it almost made me slow down. Okay. Illuminated in this observation by Apollo 14 astronaut Edgar Mitchell. You develop an instant global consciousness of people orientation and intense dissatisfaction with the state of the world and a compulsion to do something about it. In addition, NASA has facilities in Washington, D.C., Florida, Texas, California. Oh my god, this is random. Because it undermines the passage's claim by the economic, because it blurs the paragraph's focus by introducing information that does not support the paragraph's claim by the, I'm just going to read the rest of the paragraph because that was the advice that I gave that I failed to follow in this, now, but let's see. With the world population topping 7 billion, humanity is in need of some perspective. We should continue to support NASA not only for practical reasons, but also because it's a necessary vehicle for increasing our awareness of how we can fulfill our responsibilities to the planet and each other. I think 11's therefore, it's humanity needs some perspective. That's the reason why we should support NASA. And then now that I'm looking at this, I didn't really see too much mention of economic stuff. So I think that answer choice 10C is a little off the reservation. I don't know what the phrase is. I think 10's D. New theories, new practices too, and technologies are transforming the 21st century workplace at lightning speed. Is this another serial comma? Oh, and also redundancy, because I see like 3 long, 1 short, like A, B, C are all basically saying what D is, but with extra words. I think the answer is D. So actually not punctuation, it's redundancy. Performing the 21st century lightning speed. Okay, to perform their job successfully in this dynamic environment, workers in many fields, from social services to manufacturing, must continually acquire relevant knowledge and update key skills. Nice! You'll notice when I read that, my tone lowered slightly when I was reading from social services to manufacturing, because that I think I identified that as a parenthesis. If that's the case, it needs to start and end with the same punctuation. It ends with a comma, so see, let's start it with a comma. This practice of continued education, also known as professional development, benefits not only employees but also their employers. Blank, meaningful professional development is a shared responsibility. It's a responsibility of employers to provide useful programs, and it's also the responsibility of employees to take advantage of the opportunities offered to them. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say the answer is not D, because literally that's always wrong unless you're in May 2023 of this, or May of this year. But okay, this test is not from May of this year, so I'm going to go ahead likewise, similarly always wrong. Nevertheless, let's see, also benefits not only employees but also their employers. Meaningful professional development is a shared responsibility. Okay, so it's kind of talking, I feel like both of these sentences are not contradicting one another, so I think that B and C would both introduce a contrast element. Not so good, I think it's A. Blah, blah. Critics of employer-provided professional development argue that employees might consider blank. If employees find themselves falling behind in the workplace, these critics contend, then it is the duty of those employees to identify and even pay for appropriate resources to show them how and why they're falling behind in what 17's redundancy, right? So it's just B. The argument ignores research pointing to high employee turnover and training of new staff as significant costs plaguing employers in many fields. Forward-thinking employees recognize the importance of investing in the employees they have rather than hiring new staff when the skills of current workers get old and worn out. Okay, vocab are no good at C, become obsolete. I need to do the main idea from earlier in this paragraph. Which choice is best is that was the argument that follows. Critics of employer-provided professional development argue that employees something. If employees find this is falling behind, these critics contend, then it's the duty of employees to identify. Okay, so they're saying that like the employee should do it. It's their problem, so I think it should be like must be in charge of their own careers. Maybe will be ready for changes that it should lean. It's not B. It's C. They're saying the opposite. Might consider it's C. I just realized I skipped 16, so let's do that one. Now, when I was reading it, I thought that this was another parenthetical because I thought that I read it in a slightly lower tone. Again, like if employees find themselves falling behind in the workplace, these critics contend, then it's the duty of those employees to identify and even pay for blah, 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 blah. I think that would create if we created a parenthetical around the phrase these critics contend, then you'd be able to delete it, and then you would preserve the if-then construction that's going on in this sentence. If I wanted to put an answer towards like B or something, then I would be splitting the then clause from the if clause, which you kind of don't do, right? Like it's usually contained in one sentence. I'm going to go ahead and parenthesize that guy, I think. It's going to be like D. Great. Okay, just making sure we didn't skip any. Most common forms of professional development provided to employees include, the subject was forms, which is third person plural. That means that it's the equivalent of they. So you can't say they includes. You can't say they including. You can't say they has included. You can say they include though, so it's B. Coaching, mentoring, technical assistance, and workshops. Some employers utilize several approaches simultaneously, developing a framework that suits the particular needs of their employees. Blank, the figure, it looks like transition, but I see delete option. This makes you think that it's redundancy. Because sometimes they'll like camouflage redundancy within a transition question. Normal transition question has 4 transitions, not a delete option. I think it's going to be D. The figure, let me just try it though. Some employers utilize several approaches simultaneously, developing a framework that suits the particular needs of the employees. The figure illustrates a simple yet comprehensive professional development model created for special education personnel. Yeah, I think it's fine. So even if you wanted to use a transition, you'd have to justify why it's better than nothing. As the figure suggests, oh god, receiving coaching content is the overarching framework. No, the overarching framework is professional network. Oh, is that, I can just use that maybe? Thank God they all follow the same pattern. Principal founding, I need professional networks to be overarching. Membership professional overarching. Maybe C? Overarching. C. Nice. A recent trend in professional development has provided advantages to both employers and employees. What's a recent trend in professional development that has provided advantages to both employers and employees is online instruction. From an employer perspective, the first and perhaps most obvious advantage is the lower cost of online professional development compared with that of in-person workshops and trainings. Employers can also identify no pause. Oh, C. Because punctuation marks would make you take a breath like that, and I don't think you need to say employers can also identify which. Like, you would just say employees can identify which employees. Like, yeah, so C, blah, blah, blah. For employers, online personal development provides the opportunity to receive instruction at their own pace and interact with other professionals online. This exciting trend has the potential to make the shared responsibility of professional development less burdensome for both employers and employees. Okay, good. I have like -5 minutes. Let's go. In 1986, McDonald's caused a stir in Italy when it opened a restaurant next to Rome's historic Spanish Steps. Risky. Young on-the-go eaters were thrilled. Blank. Those who prize regional foods in Italy's convivial culture built on cooking and long meals feared that the restaurant signaled the death of a way of life. This is going to be a contrast transition because young people are happy. The old types were not so happy. I think I need a however. C. To counter the rise of fast food and fast life, a cohort of chefs, journalists, and sociologists spearheaded a slow food movement declaring loyalty to unhurried enjoyment. I think that after the to counter the rise of fast food and fast life, that's just an infinitive clause, which is a type of dependent clause. So I think I'm just going to put a comma there, right? Like no reason. I can't put B, like that would, or C, that would be the equivalent of putting a period in there, and so it wouldn't be a full sentence. Oh, or D. Okay, great. This is easy. So it's A. 25. The group's philosophy is connected to the tale of the hare and the tortoise, in which the tortoise wins the race. I feel like that's kind of random, but we'll check all of the answer choices. So I'll check the nose first, because it blurs the paragraph's focus by introducing a new idea that's not clearly explained. Maybe because I don't think they talked about the hare and the tortoise part before. No, because it distracts from the paragraph's emphasis on the slow food movement's origins and beliefs. No, oh, that's a lie, isn't it? Because this sentence that they're trying to insert about the tortoise and hare is about the slow food movement's origins and beliefs. So it wouldn't be distracting from it. It would be reinforcing it, if anything. I think it's C. I'm going to check A and B just to make sure. Yes, because it explains the primary belief that led to the development of the slow... I don't know if that's the primary belief. Did they say that? That sounds weird to me. Yes, because it reinforces a claim that the writer makes earlier in the paragraph. He didn't talk about the tortoise and the hare. What are you talking about? All right. From its beginning, the movement it sounds crazy, had opposed the standardization of taste that fast food chains promote. If the main clause's verb is promote, like present tense, and then you want to specify that something happened before that, like from its beginning, then we don't want past perfect tense, which is had opposed. We would just want like a regular past tense. You don't need to use like double past tense to contrast from present. You would just use past tense to say something happened before present. You would use past perfect to say something happened before past tense. It's like the past tense for past tense stuff. Nice. Another classic explanation that makes no sense. So from its beginning, the movement opposes would make it happen at the same time. Will oppose is future. Has opposed is past. It's called present perfect, but on the SAT, it's basically equivalent of past. So has opposed is essentially the same as saying opposed. All right. So the movement has opposed the standardization of taste that the fast food chains promote. For example, a McDonald's hamburger made in Boston tastes more or less the same as one made in Beijing. This consistency is made possible by industrial mass production. Slow food supporters by contrast back methods of growing and preparing food based on regional culinary traditions. When produced using traditional methods, goat cheese made in France tastes different from goat cheese made in Vermont. A goat ingests the vegetation particular to the meadow in which it grazes, which along with other environmental factors such as altitude and weather, shapes. Okay, so this is creating word salad, right? Because I can't tell if it's trying to say like weather shapes or I think it's trying to say like environmental factors shapes. I need to give the reader some help to signify that like I don't want them to read the sentence as like weather shapes. So I think I need to parenthesize, which along with the environmental factors such as altitude and weather, shapes. Okay, good. So around such as altitude and weather, I want to put parentheses. So either comma, comma, or dash, dash, such as altitude and weather. B, such as, not C. D doesn't close the parentheses, so B. If all foods were produced under the industrial model, we would have meals that are not very flavorful. Most of it supports the central point of the paragraph. The public would not be interested in learning about... I don't know about that. People would not be able to determine how a particular food was made. Consumers would lose its diversity of flavors. It's A or D. And then A to me sounded kind of like weird, given that it was like first person suddenly. I think... where's the previous... Oh my god. I have yet to adapt to the fact that I have 2 pages up at once, so I was actually looking 2 pages ago. Anyway. Yeah, isn't this whole paragraph, it seems like, is in third person, so it seems to me strange that we would suddenly go we in the middle of it. I think it's D. Also, I'm not sure if the flavorful part is the aspect they were talking about. Weren't they talking about how like a goat in Vermont tastes different from a goat in France? They weren't saying like one tastes bland. I think they were just saying that they taste different, right? which is like better because that's what D is saying. During their early years, the movement's third person singular, so during its early years, the movement also during its early years, the movement also focused on the value of spending lots of time with family and friends. Lots of time sounds like very casual, imprecise language. Usually means there's a redundancy again. I think it's B. 3 long, 1 short. They all kind of say the same thing. B says it's the shortest. It emphasized the importance of preserving these easygoing, slow pleasures. As the movement, reading is hard. As the movement grew beyond Italy's borders, today Slow Food International boasts more than 100,000 members in 150 countries. This emphasis on pleasure, criticism it attracted, not drew physically, but drew the other definition. It means like it attracted it. Critics have also asked if growing food using traditional methods as opposed to mass production can adequately and affordably feed the world? I don't know why that's a question mark when the main clause of the sentence is literally just, they're saying critics have asked something. Like, they're telling me that. If there's a question mark here, that makes it sound like the writer of this passage is like asking me the question. So it's going to be like, critics have asked if growing food in traditional methods can adequately feed the world. Can adequately and affordably feed the world. C or D? Can't. As opposed to mass production, adequately and affordably can feed the world. I think it's C. It's weird. It seems to me to be an issue with adverb placement. I think that the adequate and affordably sounds the best when it's like connected to the feed part, because that's what they're trying to modify. Given the hectic pace of modern life, who among us has the time and resources for elaborate meals? Definitely not me. I have no time for anything because I can't schedule. Such questions, in addition to environmental concerns, are the heart of perennial debates about food production. Over time, Slow Food has broadened its mission to focus on food that is good, clean, and fair for all. Members assert that food should be flavorful, carrying the properties of a particular region. It should be raised using environmentally sustainable practices that preserve biodiversity, and it should be accessible to all without exploding the labors of those who produced it. Good, nice reading. Slow Food runs programs that support small-scale producers and marketing regional foods in a world where I don't think it's nonetheless. It's just talking about like how the sentence is like in line with the goals from earlier. I think it might be C. To these ends, it's kind of like in order to accomplish this goal. It's kind of like therefore. By the same token, is that going to be a sneaky synonym of likewise and similarly? I think that might be iffy. And A, it's not a summary. It's like not even short. It's like a long sentence. What are they talking about? I think it's C. Next. Oh my god. My negative time bank just became more negative. For an hour on the evening of October 30, 1938, Orson Welles and the other performers from the Mercury Theater flooded the airways with alarming news bulletins about a Martian invasion supposedly occurring in Grover's Mill, New Jersey. Oh no. They were performing a radio play adapted from The War of the Worlds, a science fiction novel by H.G. Wells. Oh, okay. The next day, a front page headline in the New York Times declared, radio listeners in a panic, taking war drama as fact. Okay. Headline. B would be like headline in the New York Times. Declared radio list. I think that's weird. Headline in the New York Times declared. Radio list. Too many pauses in C. Headline. Too many pauses in D. I think it's A. It would just be like a front page headline front page headline in the New York Times declared. Radio listeners in a panic, taking war drama as fact. The writer wants to add a supporting detail to indicate that the story was widely reported, which is the choice that best accomplishes this goal. Okay, I need to read more. This version of events persisted, and the legend became that Wells' broadcast had as many as 12 million people who feared that Martians had invaded Earth. It's not that. You don't refer to people as that. I think it's C, like the present participle. It's trying to indicate that they're afraid. The people are afraid at the same time that the broadcast is going on, which is interesting. I don't see them ask that a lot on the SAT. But okay, 35 wants to support that it was widely reported. Okay, so the Times article claimed that people fled from their homes to police station. That's one article, so maybe, I don't know. Other newspapers also ran stories claiming the broadcast had incited mass. Maybe better. 2013. I think this is the wrong time period. Yeah. Times was so random. The Times was then and now. This is the most very random. So. Yeah, I want to say B. It's the one that widely reported. It would mean a lot of other newspapers were involved, not just the Times. Recently, however, scholars have questioned the accuracy of this legend, suggesting that the degree of public hysteria has been grossly exaggerated. The authors of the article published in October 2013 go so far to assign, isn't it go so far as to assign? That's like the idiomatic expression. He went so far as to call me a slow test taker. How dare, something like that. So he went so far. Yeah, so the authors of the article published in October 2015 go so far as to assign blame for the distortions to the newspaper industry. I think that's 37 is D. Blank, Jefferson, Pooley, and what? Okay, Jefferson, Pooley, and Michael. I thought I was reading the wrong page. It seems so like random. And Michael said, both professors of communication studies argue that the newspaper industry sought to discredit the newly emerging technology of radio, which is cutting into the newspaper's profits. What was it? The authors of an article? Oh, this is talking about what the article was in the previous sentence. Yeah, they're assigning blame to the distortion of the newspaper industry. C, right? So it's in this article. That's why we're mentioning these names that haven't come up yet, because they're just going more in depth in it, which is cutting into newspapers' profits. The newspaper industry tried to do this by portraying the new medium as it's optimization, because it says combines. It's just D, right? Because like A, B, and C are optimization is a type of redundancy question, so you would have to justify why A, B, and C are longer and better. I think it's a do. I'm going to test it out just to make sure, though. Just cutting into newspapers' profits by portraying the new medium as irresponsible. I like it. Proof of the ulterior motives is scarce. Consequently weakening Pooley and Sokolova's argument. Okay, as you read the entire paragraph, because it's main idea. Meaning it has directions. For instance, the C.E. Hooper ratings indicate that a mere 2% of households had tuned into the broadcast. Pooley and Sokolov also call into question the validity of an oft-cited report that was based on a survey conducted 6 weeks after the broadcast. Just because some people found the broadcast unsettling the author's content doesn't mean they believed it and reacted with real terror. According to this report, 1 million people indicated that they had been frightened by the broadcast. Ratings, however, reveal that far fewer than 1 million people. Yeah, I think that's right. Far fewer than? It can't be D, because that's the wrong then. We need like the comparing than with an A. And then the difference between fewer and less is like fewer is for things that you can enumerate or things that you can count. You can count people. You would use less for something that's kind of inenumerable, like happiness. So you have like less happiness. You don't have fewer happiness. But here are people, let's say fewer than 1 million people had been listening to the broadcast. Furthermore, Pooley and Sokolov noted that the survey conflated being frightened, disturbed, or excited by the program with being panicked. Okay, wait, so that was a main idea at the beginning. So this one's talking about how they said it wasn't really a big deal. I don't know if it's weakening their argument then, because it was like literally talking about their argument and how it was like stressing their argument over the course of the entire paragraph. So, but evidence does suggest that reports of panic, maybe that. Yeah, Pooley and Sokolov maintained that the newspaper industry intentionally distorted the story. Wasn't there radio mentioned here? It's a broadcast, right? Okay, wait, so then like C is a misrepresentation. Maybe there is a newspaper mentioned, but I think if we're also doing a broadcast, yeah, it's the radio. What am I talking about? Okay, making it difficult to determine what really happened. This isn't a paragraph about like we have no idea what happened, so I think 40 is B. 42, to make this paragraph most logical, sentence 4 should be placed. Just because some people found that the broadcast unsettling the author's content doesn't mean they believed and acted with real terror. Okay, so they're not really scared. So let's see where that would go. I don't think it's like in the first 3 sentences. According to the 1 million indicated they were frightened. Interesting. Ratings, however, reveal that far fewer than 1 million hadn't been listening to it further. Conflated being frightened, disturbed, or excited. Oh, I think it might be after 7. Because I don't want to put it after 5, only to have 6 like transition away from it with ratings. However, I think that 5 and 6 are meant to go together because 6 is contrasting 5. I want to say after 7. Yeah, because like the context of sentence 4 is talking about how they weren't actually afraid, and that's what sentence 7 is talking about. You're conflating being scared with just being excited. Pooley and Sokolov describe a more likely scenario. Most people who heard the broadcast understood they were listening to a piece of fiction, but some being's always wrong. Some being influenced by the sensationalized news covering afterwards, later remembered being more double being. Okay, so like there's no way that A is right. Being remembered being more afraid than they had been, but some. So there's a verb here already, the later remembered. So then I think that we have to do something like a parentheses here again. B wouldn't make any sense. You would say like they were influenced by later remembered. It sounds really strange. I think it's C. Let me just make sure that the parentheses is going to be okay, using the time that I don't have to spare. But some influenced by the sensationalized news coverage afterwards, later remembered. Yeah, if you delete that parentheses that those 2 commas are creating, then you just have some later remembered being more afraid, which is nice to see. The researchers also suggest that, not unlike people who get caught up in the excitement of the story when reading about it in the newspaper, the American public may have been willing to embrace the legend because its appeal to the imagination. Which choice must be signals the comparison he's making between the 2 groups? Caught up in the excitement. people get caught up in excitement when reading a newspaper. So they're saying like they're similar to them. So so it's A, right? Because unlike it means different, not like means different, D means different, but not unlike means not different. So similar. Okay, good. Bye.